Questions for reflection. In our first reading, the Apostle John writes, and I quote, "The devil has been a sinner from the beginning. This was the purpose of the appearing of the Son of God, to undo the work of the devil," unquote. The sin of the devil was the sin of setting himself above God, in fact, seeking to be God. That is also what he tempted our first parents with. And this is from Genesis 3. "You shall be as God, knowing good from evil." The Catechism of the Catholic Church explains about the fall of the angels, and I quote, "Behind the disobedient choice of our first parents lurks a seductive voice, opposed to God, which makes them fall into death out of envy. Scripture and the Church's tradition see in this being, a fallen angel called Satan or the devil. The Church teaches that Satan was at first a good angel, made by God. The devil and the other demons were indeed created naturally good by God. But they became evil by their own doing." The Catechism continues, "Scripture speaks of a sin of these angels, and this fall consists in the free choice of these created spirits, who radically and irrevocably rejected God and his reign. We find a reflection of that rebellion in the tempter's words to our first parents, 'You will be like God.' The devil has sinned from the beginning. He is a liar and the father of lies." And that's the Catechism, paragraphs 391 and 392. Make no mistake, the devil is real. Let's reject his lies and choose today to follow the Lord's will and choose only what is good and true and beautiful. With the psalmist, let us choose to offer the Lord that new song because he has worked wonders in our own lives. Think about it. He gave us life. He keeps us in the palm of his hands. He gave us his only Son, the greatest of gifts. In our gospel text for today's Holy Mass, Jesus passes by John the Baptizer and two of his disciples, and Jesus enters into a dialogue with them. That dialogue changed the life of John and Andrew and Peter and James, and so many others. This dialogue with Jesus is still happening today to those who reach out and engage him, because Jesus Christ is alive in our midst. And each one of us can have such a dialogue with him every day. In a special way, every time we kneel before the tabernacle, we can ask him the question, "Where do you live?" Prayer leads us into a life of communion. It is our fuel. It is the wind in our sails. We who have been baptized into Jesus Christ are now called and enabled to live our lives in him by living them in his body, the church, of which we are members. Paul writes about it in 1 Corinthians 12. And this call to live in him engages our freedom and invites our continual response to his grace. It's the fuel of our actions, or it should be. The choice is ours.